Hello and welcome to episode 4 of our Tale of Four Gamers. And we've actually got 4 of us this time. Willard is no longer lost in the wilds of the Interweb. In case you were wondering, first of all, Murray is not in a cave. You're not actually in a cave, right?
No, I'm on a balcony looking at a lake.
Murray is on the other side of the planet at the moment, but he has still deigned to join us, even though it is basically 5 a.m. where he is. I'm assuming that is a non-alcoholic beverage you're consuming there?
It is water because it is also 30 degrees.
It's like 25 degrees here in the south of England, so it's still not that much different. Okay, so fantastic. Welcome to everyone to episode 4 of Tale of Four Gamers. We're going to go around in a minute and just catch up with people on what they've managed to get painted in the kind of month and a half since we last joined in. And then we'll no doubt devolve into some kind of random segue into God knows what before circling back round to what we're hoping to get painted in the final month. Without further ado, then, let's go first of all to Mike. Mike, I'm assuming you've painted another 3 armies since we last spoke.
Not 3, not 3, but I might have painted that Empire army I was talking about. All of it.
You've shared some pictures, which I'll throw up in a second of that. But let's talk first of all about your Skaven. How are the Skaven looking? What were you planning to paint?
So I was planning to paint 5 Skaven. It was 2 Warlock Engineers that were already painted. So unsurprisingly, those were already done. But then it was Ikit Claw and 2 Poison Wing Bombardiers. So I painted Ikit Claw and 5 Poison Wing Bombardiers. And then I happened to have the bell ringer from the Screaming Bell spare because I had a Screaming Bell missing the brazier and found one on eBay, but it came with the bell ringer. So I had him spare. So I gave him a massive banner to make him a battle standard.
Oh, that's what you made the battle standard bearer out of.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then I painted a pair of Doom wheels because everyone loves Doom wheels.
So the challenge for you really would have been to only paint 5 models. Instead, you've painted, that's what, another 35?
Oh, well, I've currently got some Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves as work in progress. Mainly because they need highlights and shields. But there's about 50 of those there's some like 30 Clan Rats and 20 Skaven Slaves.
Okay.
So I aimed for 5 Skaven and I painted 6, 7, 9, 59.
I love how Ikit Claw has come out. He looks absolutely fantastic.
I am incredibly pleased with him.
You've presumably spent longer on him than you perhaps have on some of your other miniatures.
Yes. He probably took me about twice as long as some of the other miniatures, which still
a whole hour.
Slightly more than that, but I'm probably going to go back and do some highlights and things on him later. Basically, I want to get all the Skaven done to a battle ready level or whatever the terminology is nowadays, and then go back, do highlights, touch ups, things, just so I can see how it all looks. Because what I don't want to do is highlight one and like really push the contrast in the colors, and then they look odd next to the rest of the army.
Okay, yeah.
So I want to get everything up to an okay standard, and then I'll go and do more details. But yeah, he took a bit more detailing, already done some of the nicer highlights on him.
He looks properly nice. I mean, I can take slight credit in that he was a random conversion that I had bodged together that you have massively improved upon.
Yeah, so it was one of those, because you sent me all the parts of, you'd sort of got halfway through the conversion and then
given up,
got sidetracked, whichever. So I could see exactly where you were going with him. And I think the only thing I had to do was mostly glue him together, and I repositioned his head. Because
you actually took the head off?
I took the head off and rotated it about something like 30, 45 degrees, because he's built to go on a horizontal base.
Yeah, he's built like that. Like a squash hamster.
But the problem is then he's got a big claw out one side and a halberd out the other side now, at which point there's no way he would rank up with anyone in the slightest. So I took his head off, turned it, and now he goes on a diagonal base, which means he goes punches somebody behind him, but then weapon out the front.
Well, in true Skaven style, presumably he's actually deployed in the back rank, so there is no one behind him.
Icket Claw can take other people.
We may well test that theory. It's a return to the Badlands at the end of this month.
If I could actually take Icket Claw in Return to the Badlands, it would be hilarious. But I
think we should at the very least do my general versus Icket, just in kind of an arena of death. Maybe like the Friday night or something. We'll do an arena of death style showdown just to see whose general can take whose general.
Yeah, because Icket Claw. Well, when we do the Tale of Four Gamers battle, he is turning up as Icket Claw.
Of course, because you're not limited then by the campaign limits.
No, not limited at all. So he is. I'm pretty sure he's a level 4 wizard who can select from whichever law he wants. So I might have to paint up the undead army I've got hiding in a box there, because necromancy sounds fun.
Yeah, the necromancy, you can choose your spells and you can recast spells, unlike the other laws, which is pretty cool.
And I can summon skeletons.
And summon hordes of skeletal minions to do your bidding.
Because a Skaven army loves fear-causing unbreakable units.
If you do that, what you'll have to do is track down some of the Cursed Company skeletal Skaven rats and have some skeletal Skaven that you can have that he can summon to your army.
I have a Dogs of War army. I have the Cursed Company. I've got it's, I think, a unit of 12. So I'll have a couple of Skaven in there.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'll have to make sure I bring those along as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, that was the Skaven I painted.
Okay, so that's one army that you've basically painted yet more of. Let's move on to some pictures of your Empire army that you were painting. For those of you who don't remember the last one, Mike got bored and just decided to paint like 3 or 4 units of Ostermark for his Empire army. What have you done since then?
So I painted my Empire army. So I had the Ostermark. They were part done. So I painted them black before contrast paints came out, done base yellow and purple on them, and then got sidetracked. And then contrast paints came out. I tried the slap chop method of dry brushing them white and then going back over with contrast. I tried it on one guy. It was a load of hassle not to get it on the base, and then I didn't really like how it came out. So I just resprayed them all white.
Okay.
And then slapped a load of yellow contrast, a load of purple contrast, and then Guilliman flesh for the skin, some highlights, and nice sort of easy paint job. When I'm doing big batches like that, so some of them they're all yellow and purple. Some of them are top half purple, bottom half yellow. Some of them are side split horizontally. Some of them are quartered. So what I actually did was I took all of my infantry. There's 20 handgunners, 17 spearmen, 9 artillery crew, and I divided them into, I think, 6 groups, depending on which bit's going to be purple: left side, right side, top, bottom, left quartered or right quartered, and then just went through and did like all the yellow in each group, because the other contrast paints will cover the yellow, so if you make a mistake, it's fine. Then I went through, did the purples after the yellow had dried, and was slightly neater with that, so I didn't have to tidy it too much up, and then did the skins and things. So it didn't take as long as it looks like it probably should.
Nearly dropped the Pegasus. It's okay. It's still okay.
It survived.
Thank God for pinning. Sorry. Yeah. So you've painted the infantry, but that's not all you've painted for them, right?
Well, no. Then I did 5 Pistoliers, because I had those hanging around, so they're also purple and yellow, and 5 Knights of the White Wolf and the Grandmaster of the Knights of the White Wolf. This all stemmed from the fact that I'd previously painted up some of my Empire Knights and had them done, and was like, I really should get around to finishing that Empire army.
Oh, okay. So the other knights you shared pictures of weren't painted this month.
They weren't painted this month. So the Knights of the White Wolf, the Pistoliers, the infantry, and the artillery were painted this month.
Okay, so you've still painted probably like 1,000 points worth of an Empire army, but you haven't painted an entire Empire. When I saw those pictures of like the Reichsguard Knights and the Knights Panther and the Knights of the Blazing Sun, I was like, no, he has literally just painted a full-on Empire army in a month alongside the Skaven.
No, so no, I already had 30 knights painted. So there's 10 Right Guard.
Okay, we'll let you off then.
5 Knights of the Blazing Sun and 6 Knight Panther. I painted them up when I painted up some. So many years ago, me and my brother bid on eBay for a batch lot of Empire Knights that somebody was getting rid of, and there was something like 50. Which was I have no idea why they had 50 Empire Knights. I had no idea why we needed 50 Empire Knights. So yeah, 10 of those have become Volans Venators. Because I've got a Dogs of War army and I thought that would be a really good use for them. And then it's like, well, I've still got the best part of like 30 or 40 knights. So they got broken up into the various knightly orders.
Well, I mean, tracking down metal Volans Venators for less than your firstborn is also pretty tricky.
Yeah, look, last time I looked, they were about £20 a pop for just the rider, probably not including shield.
And not the horse.
Yeah, fortunately, I've got loads of horses, but not tails. I need to work out how to. I'm going to probably have to press mold tails for all of them.
3D print, just 3D print a bunch of tails.
I might give that a go as well, just because I need like 30 of them. It's painful. Yeah. So yeah, Empire. Most of an Empire army, lots of Skaven. At some point, I don't think it was in the last month, but the amount of stuff I paint, it just blurs together. I did paint a Clan Pestilence lump to go on my Skaven army.
Just generally throw some Clan Pestilence warriors in there.
I think I looked at them and went, well, these aren't going to fit in my budget at any point in the Tale of Four Gamers because Plague Monks were £5 for 3. Yeah. Censer Bearers were £5 for 2.
So I mean, in a given £25 month, you could have a unit of 15, basically.
Yeah, I could have 15 Plague Monks, not including command, or like I could spend £10 on 4 Plague Censer Bearers, and then the Plague Priest Lord Scroak to lead them was another £5. So it's like, yeah, 2 months worth for about 150 points, because Plague Monks are 6 points a model.
I think in the original Tale of Four Gamers, Roy Baker did have Plague Monks, but he did one of those. It was either his very first month that he got them, or he did it on his going to the grand opening day one to get as many blisters for free as he could.
Yeah, and it's one of those. Looking at what I wanted to take, it wouldn't fit because, as I say, 15 Plague Monks is the full month's allowance, and 15 Plague Monks is at 6 points model is what 90 points.
Yeah,
like I can't afford to spend 90 a month's budget on 90 points.
No, that makes sense.
End up with a decent sized army. But I bought them because I saw them on eBay, and what Skaven army doesn't have Plague Monks?
Yeah, frenzied troops with 2 hand weapons and loads of like ignore psychology and stuff.
Yeah,
kind of useful.
Plague Censer Bearers. Just running into units and going like, take toughness tests or die.
Yeah, my knights are going to love that.
And anything they run into is going to love that, including themselves, because they do gas themselves as well.
But they only gas themselves on a 6, right?
They do, and they skirmish, so you can actually cover quite a large area with 5 of them, which is what I've got. So yeah, they should hopefully be useful. They will probably just get shot, especially by Murray.
So that's everything that you've painted in the last month and a bit since we last convened. Let's circle round to Murray and let's Willard. Willard, what have you gotten painted, mate?
So I'm actually fairly close to. I was checking my notes of what I painted. So I'm actually fairly close to finishing my army completely. Ooh. So I have now painted 20 Ungor, 32 Gore, Giant. A Chimera, and I think all I've got left to do is the Wizard and her 5 Familiars and 5 Harpies. That's what I've got left to do. And for my 5 Harpies, I've got 5 individual unique models, and I've got exactly the models I wanted as well. So I've got all 3 variations of the Bob Ollie ones. So I've got the one that looks like from the satire era of Warhammer. So I've got the one that's sculpted to be Ronald Reagan, the 2 variations of Margaret Thatcher, and then I've got the 2 of the Juan Diaz later kind of like early 2000s Dark Elf ones. So the 5 individual harpies, and I've got to assemble. So I've got to assemble them. I wasn't thrilled with my Chaos Knight conversions, so I've gone back to the drawing board on those, and I'm redoing those. Well, I'm hopeful I'll finish those this weekend. So I should have my hope is I will have the whole army done by Sunday night.
Blooming heck. Talking about coming up from behind. The satire ones. I mean, I'm going to ask you to send me some photos of all of these so I can share it with everybody while we're talking. But the satire ones, presumably those are 1980s sculpts then.
They are. I think they might be. They might be like they're either late 80s or early 90s, but they are like the first Warhammer harpies, and they are. The Reagan one is very recognisably Ronald Reagan, and then the Thatcher one's like you can kind of see it, but.
You're going to have to work out what year they were from, because if you're bringing these to Blood in the Badlands at the end of the month, you need then to be able to enter them into who's got the oldest model section.
Are they the oldest model? I don't think I can compete with people like Russell Goodwin who'll have something from like this was buried in a Bronze Age tomb. Like, you know, this is 8,000 years old.
This is an original Warhammer miniature from ancient Egypt.
An actual Warhammer. I think suffice to say that they just certainly tick the old hammer box. I don't know exactly how old they are, but the rest of my army is actually very modern. Like, I mean, I actually think, ironically, based on model taste, I don't think I've actually got any period appropriate original Tale of Four Gamers models in my entire army, but you know.
So none of the original metal Beastman models that Paul Sawyer used in his version of Tale of Four Gamers?
Not a single one, because I think they're quite ugly, and not in a good way. So I've got ones inspired by those sculpts, like the Ungor, the modern Ungor are very clearly inspired by those original Ungor sculpts.
Yeah, you can see the kind of the DNA there.
Yeah, and I've got older ones, one of the things I'm hoping to do with the Chaos Knights is I'm actually going to be super bang up to date, and I'm going to try and use the heads from the latest Kill Team Beastmen, because they have some cool heads. And I'm like basically the problem was that the Beastman heads I was trying to use on the Chaos Knight bodies just looked too small. Like they'd all gained the pinhead mutation from the D1000 chart in Realm of Chaos. So I was like, that doesn't quite work. But the bodies are quite good. But basically, yeah, I need. So I've ordered a load of those Beastmen heads, and I'm going to try and make it work with the like new big chunky 40k Beastman heads.
Okay.
See how that looks. With a bit of luck, they'll look great. If I do say so myself. But yeah, they should be arriving this weekend, and so basically the only thing, if the heads arrive this weekend, then I'll probably be able to finish the whole army this weekend. If the heads don't arrive this weekend, then I will have the 5 Chaos Knights to finish in the final month. But I'm very close. I'm very happy with the bases as well. I've gone for an autumnal theme with lots of like red and orange and yellow leaves on the bases and things like that.
Because you were doing you were experimenting at the start with that kind of scalded lobster-looking red skin for your.
I was. I've moved back towards a traditional brown look. And talking about batch painting, I learned a great technique from Nick Baton, sort of legendary Warhammer TV presenter, whereby applying if you're batch painting models, applying. Not Nuln oil, but what's the brown one called?
Agrax Earthshades?
Agrax, yeah. Applying Agrax by spritzer works. I feel like spritzing my Beastmen.
Perfume spray type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like spritzing Beastmen with watered down, with thinned Agrax, and it works brilliantly. Like great coverage, much quicker than lots of other methods. Amusing.
Okay.
Messy.
Might have to give that a go, make me paint even faster.
Mike gets to the point where he's literally just kind of showing the paints to the models and they're just painting by osmosis.
I got given one of these And I
Wow.
wonder if I can just load it up with Agrax and just battery powered airbrush. It would work the same, right?
I mean, you'd think.
Give it a go.
Give it a go. Let us know how it gets on. Maybe do it, film it on your phone and show it to everyone.
Try
The
to upgrade my phone.
spritzing thing definitely works. Like, as I say, it's very quick. It gets you good coverage. It's much quicker than doing it with a brush.
Okay,
I've
so
only ever used spritz bottles to do like bases and terrain. Like you spritz like water with like washing up liquid, and then you just get Seraphim Seep in Agrax. You go blah 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 blah, and it makes sort of like weird patterns on terrain. Really good for like necromunda tiles.
okay, I've not tried that. I might give that a go as well. So what, you
It's
spray
really-
the washing
really
up liquid water on the you undercoat
Yeah.
it first.
So you like take a necromunda tile, for example, like a 1x1, whatever,
Mhm.
paint it silver, and you can even sort of even just do a dusting of silver just to make sure so you get like a little bit of shadow on there if you undercoat it black. Then you spritz it with water. Don't douse it, just like a nice little spritz, because if you put too much water, it will break up the wash, and you get all these like yellow white tide marks. So you just give it a nice little spritz, but make sure you put a bit of washing up liquid in there to act as a what was it? What's that stuff called? Water tension breaker. That's it.
Okay.
And then and you literally just get big brush, dollop with both, and just random splodges, and just let it dry. And then it will rather than getting sort of like your wash shape, it will seep into like the cracks, but also leave sort of like just like nice patterns, and it looks really, really quite cool. And then if you want to, you can spritz it again and get like Riser Rust, and then just lob Riser Rust in there, and it will do exactly the same thing with Riser Rust and make like a fairly convincing rust pattern for quite cheap, for quite quickly. Or you can use Dirt Down Rust, which same sort of thing.
I've got 8 necromunda tiles still to paint for my necromunda board, so I may well give that a go with try at least one of them and see how it works.
Yeah.
Why not? Cool. Okay, so we know what Willard has basically gone from I'll get it painted, I'll get it painted. Here's the army basically done. Which is good because we've got less than like 20 odd days left till the event at the end of the month. Is it just the one? You said you painted a chimera. Is it just the one monster you're going for in the end for your sorcerer's
Yes, I
spell?
sadly I could not. While the theoretical 1990s budget exists to have multiple monsters, and I do have a sort of a long-term plan to obtain many more silly monsters, and I would like to do the chimera. I haven't done this either. I'd like to have the chimera being ridden by the familiars to sort of like maintain the event. Because obviously there's enough heads for each one to have like its own
Mounted on the
like,
back.
its own little mount. But I have not sadly the actual like physical cash money budget has not stretched to like dropping £160 on the wyvern I want, or you know, finding somebody who has like a spare Mibel or Dark Fang limited edition model to like give me the familiars or anything like that. So at some point I would like to have like lots of extra monsters to do, so I could turn to any monster I like, or different monsters from turn to turn. But sadly, the actual like real world budget has not stretched to that. So
it does mean then that when you once you've turned into a chimera and terrified everybody, then we will then be immune to terror from then onwards.
that is correct. I cannot sadly pull the multiple terror-causing monsters. Although I might be able to find a Hydra, so I might have 2 tricks up my sleeve. I've certainly got like a whole month of money, like theoretical 1990s money, that I haven't yet spent.
I think in 1990s prices you could easily fit a Hydra in for 25 quid. I would think you could fit a Hydra in.
I'm sure you can, but I also want to recreate the fat bloke being able to spend some of my army budget at Bugman's Bar on an enormous breakfast as well.
Giant bacon sandwich with lard.
Absolutely. So
was he the one that bought a bacon butty one month?
Yes, it was like £1.25 bacon sandwich. I mean, literally in the photo had big fat slices of lard sticking out of the bacon butty. I'm just checking the rules for Hydras. Hydras had the awesome rule that it was using the teardrop template for breathing fire. It didn't produce. I thought it breathes fire with with each head. It doesn't.
No, it's just one head. It's just one head. It's not completely ludicrous. The Chimera also breathes fire, and the Chimera can fly. So the Chimera is like the best one.
It's the Swiss Army knife then of monsters in this respect.
It absolutely is. It's got a head for every occasion, whereas the Hydra has just got it's like 5 knives. You're like, what are you going to do with this? But yeah, there's a cool Hydra model that I may be able to. That basically, if I can find. I think if I can squeeze it in, I'd quite like a Hydra as well as another thing I could turn into, because the Hydras regenerate, which is quite funny.
So yes, you'd regenerate wounds then, wouldn't you? So if you're wounded as a sorceress, turn into a Hydra, regenerate your wounds, and then go, haha, I'm back to full strength. Sneakies.
That's the plan.
Is it any monster you can turn into, or does the spell list?
Sadly, there's a list. I'd love to be able to be like, now. Yeah, so basically there's a list in Cadon's transformation, and it's Wyvern, Hydra, Manticore, Wyvern, Hydra, Manticore. I think there might be one other, but yeah, it's like...
Presumably Chimera, because you've got one for that purpose.
Yeah, Chimera, and then I don't think you can be like a Griffin or a Hippogriff, because those are like quote-unquote good monsters. But I think it's, those 4. I think it's Wyvern, Hydra, Manticore, Wyvern, Hydra, Manticore, Chimera, I think are the ones you can turn into.
Yeah, can't turn into like a swarm of rats or something.
Sadly not, no.
Imperial Dragon.
One harpy.
In a later edition, you were able to turn into the Forge World Resin Dragon if you could cast it on like 18 on 3d6.
That's pretty cool.
Or get total power, which obviously is the way you did it. So yeah, that's the further down the line when we do nostalgia Warhammer 8th edition, I could get that Warhammer Fire Dragon to turn into.
Wait till the old world's been out a while. They go, oh, did everyone remember 8th edition? When you had to have units that were like the entire year's spending budget for one unit.
Yeah,
here's my 100 Night Goblins.
It was fucking awful.
It was.
Don't understand people's nostalgia for it.
I will personally say on the 8th ed thing, it was a great addition to play, and the units played brilliantly. And when you did have that horde, so I played a wonderful doubles tournament with Paul. I think I've talked about it before, where he took an ogre, he took an all troll chaos army, and I took an all ogre army, which obviously was very bad because, for example, Paul's army was entirely stupid, which was like stupid, and because it was Trolls Leadership 4, stupid as well. So we had no intention of winning, but somehow ended up on the top table in the last round. And we're like, everyone else was like, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the brilliant scheme? And we were like, we just thought it would be funny, and nobody expected an army entirely composed of monsters.
Units of Trolls were terrifying. I know because I ran a unit of Chaos Trolls with Throg the Troll King leading it, which mitigated the stupidity somewhat. I got it because I thought it would be really thematic, run a big monster Chaos Army unit of 15 trolls led by Throg. They just demolished anything.
Totally brutal, yeah.
Like,
nothing can basically fight. Basically, anything will die that goes into them, as we discovered.
Because you either beat the living daylights out of them with your fists, or if they're really heavily armored, you just puked on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just
really
like, suddenly you've lost 20 guys. It's like, what? Hang on.
Yeah, but suffice to say, the big unit. So Paul had a massive unit. He had his Troll Sultan being carried around on a sedan chair by a unit of 50 Marauders with great weapons and the Mark of Khorne. So that unit got 40 Strength 5 attacks in the front rank. But obviously it was all kind of guys wearing oil and turbans. They had no armor save. So you just get these insane combats where you go into like a unit of 20 dwarves, you're striking last, and the dwarves would be like, right, we kill like 8 guys, that's a massive combat result, and then you'd swing back and be like, we kill 19 dwarves. But the really good thing about it was you really felt like the whole units were fighting, so it had this kind of great thematic feel to it. But the problem was each of those units cost like £1 million to buy, so you had to be super into it
You also got the units got so big, and you basically games a lot of the time just ended with who's deployed the best, because you couldn't maneuver those units properly because of the the turning circles. It was a base. I plonked my unit here. It's going to face whatever you plonk over there, because you can't do the nice swinging maneuvers you could do in 7th, 6th, and 5th. It was just, I've got a unit of 140 clan rats because I need that many clan. Well, not 140, but it was like 50 clan rats with a screaming bell. You could, but
I think the mistake you've made there is you haven't had. This is the real problem with 8th edition: is that infantry was amazing, and basically, if you allowed the other side to have infantry superiority, you would lose. But to deal with massive hordes, if you didn't have a horde army, they also put a spell in every spell lore that basically would make an entire unit fall down a hole and instantaneously die. And that's how you were supposed to get maneuverability.
But then everybody had to. Then it became every army you came across was a level 4 and 2 level 2s, with each of them having at least one dispel scroll each, and that was like, everybody had that, and it was just like, well, okay.
But by the end of turn 2, all the spell scrolls have gone, and then units start falling down holes. It's brilliant. Like, the look on somebody's face when they've painted 140 clan rats, and you're like, right, all of them need to roll a dice, and if you don't roll a 6, they all die. And then
nobody ever did that to my Skaven army. My Skaven army was already in their units, killing, stabbing, because I had enough assassins, stabbing wizards. It was.
This is the thing. The heartbreaking moment for somebody when they've spent like months painting 140 models, and you're like, "Yeah, I've cast a spell. They're all dead. Like they've fallen down a hole. Like extremely disappointing."
That was the edition where they had Storm of Magic as well, wasn't it?
Oh, Storm Magic can fuck right off. I fucking hate that expansion. Look, I've got one wizard. I know your entire army's dead on turn 1. Not that fucking happened to me. It was like, okay, well, this is completely boring now. That just ruined 8th edition for me.
I didn't really enjoy 8th.
I'll be honest with you, I'll defend it. I actually thought 8th was really good. I think the problem with it was the big problem with it was if you weren't already like heavily invested in Warhammer, the start cost for like 1,000-point army was literally like £1,000 for a 1,000-point army, because you were literally going, okay, well, I need like 22 boxes of models. I mean, like, so Island of Blood, the Skaven, it was like, I think it was like 100 models, and it was less than 500 points. It was absolutely mad.
And it was where people were like, I need a unit of 30 great swords. Okay, they come in 10 unit boxes.
For
10 model boxes for like 35. So it's like, okay, so it's £100 for one unit, and that's like probably sub 200 points. It
was the Dark Elf witches that were the real kicker, because they were like 30. Were they 30? They were £35 for a box of 10.
A box of 10.
Yeah, and they were what? 1 wound, toughness 3, fuck all armor save, because they wear bikinis into battle. And you just go, cool. Well, I'll shoot them then.
Presumably at that point, the Dark Elf player doesn't care, because he's got 5 plastic chimeras on the board, and they're like 140 points each and totally insanely overpowered. I mean, I'm not saying it was the best edition of Warhammer. I thoroughly enjoyed it, though. I will say it was. I actually thought it was pretty cool.
I get a feeling it was a very, because I had fun playing with it, but I could not take it seriously. As soon as you tried to play the game as a serious like tactical war game, it just frustrates everyone. If you want a game where you run units at each other and there's massive combats and everything dies and spells literally blow up sections of the board, great. It's like when I go and watch a Transformers movie, I just want to see giant robots punching other giant robots. Great. If I wanted like a deep, serious plot and everything, I'm in the wrong place.
Then you'd watch the animated Transformers movie.
Yes.
The key error you've made there is thinking that a game where literally in the main rulebook, there's a castle you can put in your pocket as a magic item. Is a serious rule game. That was an awesome item. Like that era of things like the common magic items list, where the common magic items were so much. It was the cool era for magic items, like castle in your pocket you could just pull out and just
Fosric's Folding Fortress. It was even well named.
Yeah.
And that's like
flying carpets for wizards. Awesome.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Lee Palmer about this recently. It's not aired yet, but we were doing a video all about Mordheim and got sidetracked, as was wont to happen. And we got talking about, he loves 6th edition fantasy. I love 5th edition fantasy. And we compared notes on the two, because he's been trying to learn the rules for 5th edition in preparation for Return to the Badlands. And the conclusion we came to was this: 5th edition is probably the most fun of the two. In terms of, there are all manner of lunatic things that can happen, and you never know quite what's going to happen from 1 minute to the next in the game. Everything can turn on a single roll of a die or flip of a card. But you generally will have fun playing it. 6th edition is the better war game in terms of, if you actually want a strategy battle war game to play, then 6th edition fantasy is the game for you. I think my take would be that 8th edition is neither as fun as 5th or as good as 6th.
I mean, I think 6th is probably the high point of it as a quality war game. But I do think that the edition I enjoyed the most was, I don't know. I mean, I think my favourite games of Warhammer were, and this is part of the reason why I did a Beastman army for this one. My favourite games of Warhammer were 6th edition Beastman games, because it's just wild. Like, just the whole army ambushing and everything skirmishes. It was just like a completely different, just felt like a totally different game. It was amazing.
You just looked at the rule book and went, not for me.
Yeah,
like everyone else is playing by that rule book, and you just sit there and go, you know what, I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do something, but it still totally works. That's the thing. It totally works. It feels. The crucial thing about it is it feels incredibly Warhammer, as everybody else is in ranked up units, and the Beastmen are just an absolute horde of idiots just pouring out of the jungle, just getting slaughtered and running away. It's just awesome. But yeah, I just think it's a taste thing, and like the most disappointing thing about 8 was that Beastmen were just quite like a normal army, and they lost that flavour.
Yeah.
So I think for me 6 was probably the best. But.
We have done exactly what we said we were going to do, which we've got lost down a massive tangent hole. We haven't even made it all the way around. We're halfway round thus far, half an hour in. I'm going to move on to Murray. Murray, what have you gotten painted? When we talked last time, we'd agreed that realistically, given you're going to be out of the country for an extended period of time, you probably weren't going to get month 3 painted, but you had vague thoughts that you might get months 1 and 2 done.
I got month 1 done. Got month 1 done.
Month 1 archers done.
Got the archers done, and I got the. I didn't get the horses done. What I did, however, do, and I will send you a picture of it, was because I needed a palette cleanser of wood elves, because I don't know, those archer models did me a number in. I was at bank holiday Monday. I painted an entire 2,000 point dystopian wars fleet in a day.
So you're saying you can get stuff done, it just has to be stuff that interests you.
No, it's not that. It's because dystopian war stuff is also piss easy to paint. It's the tiny ships, which have about 3 colours on them. And so the entire army was just sprayed silver, and then non-washed, and then red contrast, and then gold, and it was done. And so yeah, I did that because they've been languishing, and I just wanted to get something little done. Yeah, so I will send you a photo of that. But yes, and now that's done, and the palette is cleansed, and now I've kind of come back from holiday. I will endeavour to carry on and finish. However, Silent War is around the corner, and I really need to get Maddox done as well.
Well, bear in mind, Silent War, I'm waiting until 10th edition actually fully. I mean, we've had the rules drop now, but I'm still waiting until we get all the data cards and stuff before I write the rules pack for Silent War. So you've got a little bit of time on that yet.
Yes. Yes, I'm gonna have to talk to you about him though, because like we were discussing originally, him versus Silence coming back. He is not going to be a human-sized model. He is going to be a almost a machine-sized model.
Well, we know that they've said that Karamazov is getting a data sheet in 10th edition. So I'm working on the principle that that will give us a baseline for, large size, large target things like, huge Magos on crawler unit type thing, or Inquisitor built into throne. You could probably convert one by setting it in that. But so we're going to have some kind of baseline, which I'm going to use the Karamazov rules to work out what that looks like for Silent War. What I think is quite cool is it looks as though they've done a lot of the work for me, because it seems as though the Warhammer community page, and again, we've gotten sidetracked from Tale of Four Gamers, which we'll come back to, but the Warhammer community page did a whole thing about the whole Imperial Agents stuff that you can have in 10th edition, which I think is really cool.
I saw that and went, looks like they've done most of Ben's work. Awesome.
I almost kind of looked at it and went, have they just been reading my Silent War campaign packs and gone, let's just do this. It's a really good idea. Let's do this. Going on full circle. But yeah, so they've almost kind of done the thing for me of, you can have an Inquisitor and his retinue as part of your army. Great. Okay, well, that makes it relatively straightforward for me. I just need to give it a few characterful tweaks. But so I'm assuming it is unlikely that you're going to be making it to Return to the Badlands.
Oh, yeah, no. I will be... So, yeah, I land Tuesday coming. So I'm landing after 25 hours of travelling, because, weirdly, I have to go from Kuala Lumpur to Hong Kong, wait in Hong Kong for 6 hours, then get a flight from Hong Kong. So I'm going further east and then coming back west. It was so it's just a fair assumption
you're not going to get your stuff done.
Nah. So after 26, 25, something like that, hours of flying, I land. I then have to get a train from London to my parents' house, pick up my dog and my cat, and then go back and then drive home, and then I will just collapse asleep, I think, and then the next day I'm working. So yes, I doubt that weekend I will be at all. I will be comatose, so I won't be turning up. However, I will be getting. I will endeavour to get more wood elves painted.
Well, I was going to say, hopefully, once you get your stuff done, then we can do our own separate Tale of Four Gamers weekend and play through the little Tale of Four Gamers campaign that they set out in the last issue of the original White Dwarf series.
Yeah, so I think what I'm gonna do now, I've got the archers done, because everything is a little bit bitty. I'm probably just going to I'm going to attempt to do contrast speed painties and just try and do it quickly.
You're gonna do a mic.
I'm gonna try and do a mic. I've got the next thing to do are 5 Glade Riders. So I'm just going to see if I can just do like base coat, maybe either just contrast or base coat wash, 1 highlight, just do it that way. And just, yeah.
I have found that horses do lend themselves quite nicely to contrast.
All right, okay.
Like spray white, attack them. I'll send you a list. Literally, it's like Cygor Brown with plus this on the legs, or a coat of Tuscarora fur, and or snakebite leather, and then a Xandri dust dry brush. I've worked out by this point. I've painted so many damn horses that there is just combos that work quite nicely. So I'll send those to you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you send that, because then because I haven't got much cavalry, Wood Elf army. So I've got those 5 Glade Riders with bows, and then I've got another 5 or 6 with spear and shield. So yeah, those I've only got about 10, 11 horses in the list, and then I've got 6, which I did actually build. So I did do a lot of building before I left. So all of the Warhawks that were in bits are now, they're all put together, except for the wizard on Warhawk, which I just need to pin the wizard onto it.
Okay.
So everything else is
dry brushing. I would assume will work quite nicely for the feathers.
Yeah, that's just going to be contrast and then a dry brush, and then maybe like some whites here and there to pick out some bits and pieces. But yeah, yeah, it's feathers. Bit of yellow for the beak.
So what we're saying then is that your next month, essentially your last month, will be paint your army.
Hopefully, yeah. Let's try and go with that.
Okay, cool. Well, I've
Pull a Willard out of the hat.
Yeah, well, as I say, Willard's just kind of going, I'm getting stuff done, I get stuff done. It's done! There we go. That's an army done.
The thing about it is once you get, what I find is once you get the army to a stage, right, that it's quicker to just do it all in one go. So the way I do armies is I build it all, I do a couple of test models, and then I do the whole army. And I don't like hang around doing like a unit at a time. It's just quicker to do like all of it.
It's like the way I batch paint 30 clan rats. It's once you've worked out what colours go where, it is easier just to bash out 30 of them than that first one trying to work out all of it. It's just almost disengage brain and just engage hands and paint and do it.
Very zen. I find painting very zen. Like I find it's just a wonderful thing to do where you don't have to think, you can just do. And so I tend to do it, and I have like a really like dense audiobook on in the background, and my mind is like in the audiobook while my hands are just like painting. But I still like enjoy like the bit of the painting I enjoy the most is the point where the point where it goes from just like this is a mess, it's going nowhere, to when they all like pull together into like, oh, this whole unit looks awesome. And then going and doing like little touches on certain models and going through. I have actually just for my own fun value, I have left the champion of the Ungor unit horribly sunburned because I decided not to repaint him and just decided that his mutation is he's just horribly sunburned at all times. He stands out, it's fair to say. But basically, yeah, I just think, yeah, that just like being able to add like little touches to units, like tattoos on a lot of beastmen and things like that is really fun. Going back for that last stage, kind of. So yeah, I tend to do a sort of a big batch paint and then go back and like do individual detail on each on models just for fun.
Well, you say about sticking an audio book on. You'll be quite pleased to hear that we've had some commenters saying that they listen to us while sitting and painting, which is quite cool. If anyone who's sat painting now and listening to us rambling on about painting, hello.
Very
don't drink your paint water.
After I'm paint water drink your paint water. Can there.
Or do drink your paint water. I had a staff member who worked for me when I was running a Games Workshop who told me that he was going to write to Games Workshop HQ because he'd been drinking a lot of Hawk Turquoise and it had a very nutty flavour, and he wanted to write to head office to ask them whether it was safe for people with nut allergies to drink. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be drinking paint, Ross. But
did we get an answer on is Hawk Turquoise nut free?
They were like, it is nut free, but don't drink it, please.
It does say a lot about Games Workshop staffers, really. And I say that on the basis that we're all ex-staffers on here.
Yeah.
Well,
which paint?
Sorry, go on.
What was it? There was one paint that tasted god awful above all the rest of them.
The foundation paints when they came out.
Which foundation paint? Yeah, which one was it? It was
red.
I thought it was the yellow one.
It was the yellow one. It's that on Sunset.
Dark Sun or something.
Iron and Dark Sun. There we go. Yeah,
that was
yes.
That's how bad it is that I remember the paint name. Because
and Badab Black tasted pretty goddamn awful as well.
Yeah, definitely mud.
Sound like we all drink paint here, guys. This is like what we
do. We're all brush lickers. We all know this.
That's it. I didn't rinse my brush quite well enough, did I? Because now it tastes.
Sometimes
got to get it to a point.
When you're in a rush, but when you're in a rush as well, you don't even rinse it. You're like, no.
Well, no, I don't know anybody else here who's gone, I've just poured my paint water away, but then I've realised there's something I want to do. Just a tiny bit. I'll just use the brush and then I'll just suck the brush clean.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I've never done that.
Okay. Just
plenty of times.
That would involve me cleaning my paint water more often than I do. In fact, I'm not going to look at it now. It'll upset everyone.
I'm going to briefly fly through. So my month 3 was supposed to be the 4 questing knights, the 3 Grail knights, and the Duke on Pegasus. I've kind of gone slightly out of order because I got into painting the questing knights, and I really enjoyed painting the questing knights. So I'll just quickly send you a picture. I've actually finished my unit of questing knights. I went through and painted the questing knight command as well. So here come my questing knights. Oh, that's with the standard bearer. And more questing knights. Where are you? Musician.
Ooh. Very pretty. That banner is something else.
The banners I got from a company called Flags of War. I can heartily recommend. There we go. That's the rest. That's all the questing knights, including my personal favourite. I've done the original 4, which are the original 4 box set. I've done a variation on the colour schemes there, so they are as close to the original box set as I could. But I kind of liked the idea that in the background, I think it's on the 6th edition background, they said that questing knights ditch all heraldry, that they only have fleur-de-lis, and on the art, some of the questing knight miniatures had like little extra filigrees and stuff, like little half moons and stuff on them. And I've ditched all of that and gone purely, everyone's just got fleur-de-lis on them. But I'm particularly pleased with the Green Knight, or Black Knight as I'm calling him, which is Sir Edmund, the Black Adder.
Oh, complete with the snake helm.
Yes, well, that's it. I looked at him, he's got a snake on a head. I wanted to practice painting a really dark green before I get around to getting myself a copy of the Lion miniature. I'll use this as an ideal opportunity to paint some really dark green, and also let's paint Blackadder. So that's my Blackadder for Warhammer Fantasy. But then, so I've started on the Grail Knights. The Grail Knights they're coming along. I've got most of the colours done on them. I'm on the layers and highlights now. And while we've been chatting, you've probably seen I've been painting the Bretonnian Duke. He is 99% done. I mean, he is at the stage where I need to do the final highlight on the horse and the base, and then he is done. And yeah, so he's basically done. But again, I got distracted. Pride month, and I wanted to paint them a miniature for Pride, so I painted my damsel in the trans colours. So here we go. There we go. There's my damsel. So she would have been in one of my month 4 installment, but I've painted her up for this instead. And I'm really chuffed with how she came out. That was a couple of days solid work on her.
Is there a message you're sending with your damsel being trans?
No, it was purely, I thought she'd look cool in those colours. And there's been a thing on Twitter where people have been painting miniatures like in Pride colours or in the trans flag colours, just as a show of support. And I thought, I want to do that with a miniature. Let's find a miniature that it would look good on. And then I was thinking, well, I want to do a light blue barding on the thing, maybe with a pink liner. Ooh, okay, pink, blue, white. It's the trans flag colours. Away we go. And I'm really pleased with how she's come out.
I've seen some Nurgle.
Really cool.
I've seen some Nurgle Marines done in those colours that look awesome. Absolutely amazing. Like pink trim and blue armour looked fucking great, actually.
Check out, if you can find the guy's Twitter feed, check out, he's done loads of miniatures in those colours. I mean, he's the same guy who did the Nurgle one. He's done maybe 20 or 30 miniatures in the trans flag colours, and they all look really, really awesome. He's done different variations on the themes of the colours.
Do you know what really looked very good in those colours? The Thousand Sun.
Yep.
Thousand Sun Ruberic Marines would look really cool like that.
Light blue with a pink trim would look really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what I've gotten done. What that leaves me left to do then is, because I've done some of my month 4 stuff rather than finishing off my month 3. Once I've got these 3 Grail Knights done, it's the 3 command miniatures for the Grail Knights, which I've got built and undercoated. They just need to be done. And it's then just a case of finishing my squires. And I've started essentially miking the squires. The squires have been sprayed white, painted all over with apothecary white, half painted with ultramarines blue. And then earlier today I did snakebite leather on the bows, and I was just going through using different contrast brown paints to do different bits of leather on them, so they look a little bit different across them. But I'm hoping that those I can get away with just doing those tabletop quality rather than the same level, because we've got like 20 days left until this event at the end of the month. But yeah, then my Taylor Gamers Force will be done, and it'll just be a case of adding extra stuff into it as and when I want to later on.
Cool. So what I'm hearing is I need to take another holiday in order to just do painting.
It sounds like a plan, to be honest. I mean, I'd quite enjoy that as a holiday if I could get away with that.
Yeah, the problem is because I spent most of my holiday allowance on this, I've only got 3 days left. I'm going to have to buy more holiday days.
I'm assuming that none of your employers are watching this. Murray came down with a horrendous disease that he caught out in the Far East, and he's therefore going to be off for 2 weeks recovering. Symptoms include a paint-spattered tongue.
It's a weird type of malaria.
It's a terrible shame that you've come down with painter's tongue, as they call it.
Painter's tongue. Just spots of yellow and white. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a curse that we all bear.
So we know what Murray's doing for the next month. It's just basically painting his entire army. We know what I'm doing for the next month. Willard has mostly finished his army by the sound of things.
Yeah, I've got to read. The big thing from the last month is basically getting the Chaos Knights to a place where I'm happy with them. That's including particularly the heads on the conversions. I think is the Beastman heads. I think will work, but that's my big thing. 5 Chaos Knights.
Mike, I'm assuming you've finished your army several times over by this point.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, I'm sure I wrote an army list for what I'm going to take, and I'm like, I have. I've got my 2,000 point army list. It doesn't even include the Doom wheels. I've probably now got closer to 3,000 points of Skaven painted, so I've still got like the shields to do and finish up on those clan rats and slaves that work in progress, but that will be probably this week. So it leaves me at a bit of a loose end. So as I said, I had actually planned that this last month budget was, because something you can do in 5th edition fantasy, and too few people did, you can take allies. 25% of your army can be taken from an allied list.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to remember who Skaven can ally with. One of them's undead, which is quite funny, because I could take Ikit Claw as my general with necromancy spells, and then ally in another 500 points of undead, which means I could take a unit of like skeletons led by a wraith, and then add more skeletons to them during the game.
Well, 500 points, you could take some kind of really funky stuff. If you did undead, would you do undead or vampire counts?
Undead. So when I
specifically the old undead book.
Yeah, I started with the undead back in the day, as opposed to the vampire counts.
So you could take some really hardcore stuff, like some mummies or something.
Yeah, or chariots.
Chariots were cool. The skeleton chariots were very, very cool.
The thing about mummies is, if you were on a really tight budget, mummies were 80 points each.
Yeah,
back in the day, and they came 3 to a blister, so you could £5 got you 240 points in your army, and the minimum unit size, of course, was 5. So, like, you know, mummies were very efficient.
Well, wraiths were similar points because
75.
you could take them as regiments rather than just characters. So you could take those, and they also have the advantage that they cause terror and are immune to non-magical weaponry. And
they could walk through scenery because they were ethereal.
Yes, yeah, and they're basically, you could just troll your opponent with them by flying them around causing terror without really doing anything useful. Also, if you're in combat with them, you have to take a break test at the end of the round, whether they win or not. Wraiths make you take a break test. Why?
I will confess that Undead was my first ever army, and I used to troll my friends relentlessly with a unit of five wraiths, 375 points. It was, it was a decent chunk of my army, but that my center of my battle line would be 5 wraiths marching up the middle of the board with a unit of skeletons either side, chariots flying around the flanks, Carrion going around the other flanks, and then just to really mess with them, first turn, Arcan the Black in his chariot, who would fly high, because his chariot had like giant manticore wings. And just at the point when the wraiths were kind of getting up close and starting to menace them, he would come charging down behind the enemy and charge them in the rear. So you'd have wraiths in the front, flying, terror-causing chariot in the butt. Yeah. I think they were quite glad when I switched over to a vampire lord, to be honest.
Yeah. So maybe I'll see what I can do with 500 points of undead. I'm not sure what I'll drop from my current army list, because
Well, bear in mind,
Warp
so
fire
you
throws. It
can't
definitely should be
take,
the warp fire throws.
you can't take them for Return to the Badlands because the only allies allowed for Return to the Badlands are Dogs of War.
They are. So Return of the... Oh, actually, yes, because it's Return of the Badlands in not very
That's
long.
first. Literally, like 20 days.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm getting my army list confused because my Return to the Badlands army can't have half my stuff, like any of the characters. Like, my Tale of Four Gamers army list currently has like over 800 points of characters. My Return to the Badlands list has 200 or 300.
Skaven General and Warlock Engineer.
Skaven, two Warlock Engineers because I found one of those wizard towers or something that let me have a second one. So I have 2 Warlock Engineers and a Skaven Warlord with 100 points of magic items to get me to 312 points of characters. And then I've got 500 points of War Machines, which leaves me with 1,200 points of regiments, which in Skaven is... Yeah, that's why I'm painting up the extra 30 clan rats and 20 slaves. I'm looking at a unit of 40 clan rats, a unit of 30 clan rats, 2 units of 25 clan rats, 4 units of 10 slaves, and those plague monks and plague center bearers are painted. So I'm just going to run all of the units and hope something works.
Throw wave after wave of men at it.
That's literally what I've got. I've got 4 units of clan rats with 4 units of slaves because the slaves all go out the front and die.
Willard, so you've got your list finalised for Return to the Badlands as well, I take it?
Absolutely, I do. It's what I've painted. Like, that's the whole thing. Like,
It's Beastmans, more Beastmans, some Chaos Knights, some Harpies, and a Sorcerer Lord, because you got you rolled up the thing for it. Oh no, you were taking your general as Chaos Sorcerer Lord, weren't you?
Yes, my general is not a Chaos Sorcerer Lord. My general is a Beastman Grand Wizard or whatever they are, like the biggest wizard of the Beastmen.
Great Shaman, I think.
Great Shaman, yeah. So she's a great Shaman, and that's what she does.
She's a great Shaman, really, really great.
The best Shaman. Everybody says it. But yeah, so she's a great Shaman, and she obviously, like, the whole shtick is she can turn into a chimera and make other beastmen worship her as a god. And then that's how the whole I assume that she's like a wizard's apprentice that like read the wrong book, got a bit hairy, escaped to the forest, and then was like, what am I going to do now? Turn into a chimera, get people to worship me as a god, become a chaos warlord. It's a brilliant scheme.
You say wrong book, and I think that's the right book.
The correct book, yes, the one with transformation of Cadon in it. Like,
imagine Icket Claw there going, "You give me book, yes."
Yes, but yeah, no, that's so essentially the plan is there'll be a lot of capering beastmen, and probably like because obviously the way you would actually play this in the era we were playing it was you would have some way of mitigating beastman infighting. I don't have any of that. My beastmen are just going to fight each other all the time and be useless. It's going to be quite funny, but there you go. So basically, the giant is reliable. The harpies are reliable, the Ungor are reliable, but the actual beastmen themselves are just going to squabble.
Well, the giant is reliable until he trips over and falls over his own feet. Which is what happened with my giant the last game I played with him.
Reliable within the frame of being a giant, but like considerably more reliable than normal beastmen who have to take a leadership test at the start of every turn or just fight each other. It's like animosity, but just worse.
I was going to say, I remember playing Orcs and Goblins back in 5th edition, and it was like, you could take a Black Orc champion and stick it in every single unit, or you could just not. And just animosity was just a thing.
Just be boring to play.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's no realistic way of mitigating it for Beastmen, because there's none of the heroes have got like really good leadership or anything like that. So your option is basically you have your Beastmen enslaved by an evil Chaos Lord who does have good leadership, or if you want to have an actual Beastman leading your Beastman army, you're just stuck.
Slap the Crown of Command on them, job done.
That's basically what I was going to say, Crown of Commands.
that was all the low leadership army. It's like Skaven. How do I stop my entire Skaven army running away as soon as one terror-causing creature turns up? Crown of command. Done.
I mean, it's a good suggestion, but that would mean I'd have to leave one of my familiars at home, and that's just not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
Oh yeah, completely get it. That was traditionally the way you mitigated leadership issues. Slap the Crown of Command on someone.
I mean, why would I have that when I've got a Chaos Familiar who enables me to add 1 or -1 from any dice roll, and a spell that means that if you roll a 1, you instantaneously die, but if you roll a 2 or more, you get D6 extra magic cards. So as long as I've got the Chaos Familiar playing his Chaos Trumpet, I'm fine.
What we're assuming is the Chaos Familiar will, you'll roll a 2, then the Chaos Familiar will subtract 1 from it.
Obviously, to send me to hell quite much faster.
True Chaos fashion. You should have a coin. You should flip a coin to see whether he adds 1 or subtracts 1 each time.
Wow, that
True
is,
chaos.
That is chaotic indeed.
Is it from the same chaos god as me or not?
Well, I think it'll be fine. I think he'll never hit a bum note on that trumpet. He's like the Chaos Familiar Charlie Parker.
I'd quite like you to have a saxophone solo or something programmed on your phone, and every time he uses it, you just hit play and it starts going do 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 do.
I will find a suitable piece of music for the magic chaos trumpet.
Does that familiar just stays around all battle, or is it a?
It's a model. It's a model with like toughness 3. It's like
so
a unit.
If it gets killed, then no more
trumpets.
At which point you need like the sad trombone noise for when it dies.
Absolutely. Maybe it should be a sad trombone noise for when you're going -1, and then like a triumphant like bugle for when it's going +1.
A slide whistle. How quickly can we get thrown out of Warhammer World?
Fine. I'm sure everyone at Warhammer World, once it's explained to them that it's a chaos trumpet, will be like, fine.
Well, my army list will hopefully come as no surprise to any of you, because I'm hoping you had a chance to watch my battle report where I test drove the army.
Was it good when you test drove the army, or did you want to, take it back to the shop?
No, I mean, there was the slight issue that myself and my friend Michael, of Raiding the Lost Attic fame, we got the rules for bolt throwers somewhat wrong, because in 6th edition, bolt throwers, if you fired multiple shots, didn't ignore armor saves, you just used the normal modifier. Whereas in 5th edition, even when you multi-shot your bolt thrower, it still ignores armor saves. So I probably would have lost a few more knights than I did, because I was making a couple of armor saves each time he shot me with 3 bolt throwers he had in his high elf army. So yeah, I mean, oh yeah, no, I want to see a game of his high elves versus your Skaven at some point. It would just be like, War of the Gun, all your Skaven war machines versus all of his bolt throwers and eagles.
But how many? If he multi-shots, is it 5 shots, 4 shots?
4 shots per bolt thrower.
But they don't pierce ranks.
They do pierce ranks. But they do it at a lower strength.
They pierce ranks and they ignore armor saves, and they're only strength 4.
Yeah.
But they are still devastating. And in the first iteration of the High Elf book, they were 50 points each. So in a 1,000-point army, you could have 5.
He's using the up-to-date version of the High Elf book that came out towards the end of 5th edition, so it's 100 points per bolt thrower, which is quite fair, I think, to play rather than playing to advantage.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because if they didn't pierce ranks, then you've either got you can kill at most 5 Skaven, because I'm going to be 5 ranks deep.
Yeah.
So you kill either 4 or 5 Skaven, and I'm like, well, that's like 30 points. Like if your bolt throwers, I was thinking there were 100-point bolt throwers. At which point,
they are 100-point bolt throwers.
Yeah, at which point you need to max out kills for like 3 and a bit turns to get your points back. I'm not actually that worried about them.
I think the challenge is, of course, the fact that they probably kill like 7 or 8 on each hit. Yeah. And that's immediately giving you a panic test. And the whole point is they hit one unit, that unit runs away, and then like 60 silver helms run through that gap. And then like everything's gone horribly wrong for you.
Oh, it's going to go horribly wrong anyway. But I don't think it's the bolt throwers I really have to worry about doing that. Like, all the rest of the elf army is going to be just as bad.
Well, my army performed reasonably well. It's, I mean, I say, if you get a chance, watch the battle report. It's not long. It's about 25 minutes. The combo I loaded my general up with, because he's got quite a fair number of magic items for my army. He's hopefully going to be able to kill Batface the Bloody. He is my only best chance of killing Batface the Bloody. I've armed him with the Dragon Blade, the Tress of Isolde, and something else. Can't remember what the hell the other thing is, but something else. But it basically meant that for one turn, a virtue that means that every hit he gets, I can make another attack with. So his 4 attacks become 8 attacks, and each hit becomes 2 hits, becoming 16 hits, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, ignoring armor saves.
Mean. It's pretty hardcore.
That's that is my bloodthirster killing plan.
I'm just going to die horribly to it.
That's your plan, to make it feel sympathy for you by dying horribly.
If anybody can work out, and please add this to the comments if you do, any way of making a Skaven general be able to go toe-to-toe with a bloodthirster and not die horribly, let me know.
I mean, it has to include Van Horseman's Specularum, presumably, to swap like attack, strength, and toughness and stuff with him.
Well, that's probably a start. The Black Amulet might be a good go for flicking wounds back to it. Basically, let him hit me until he dies. The problem is he has more wounds than I do, and the Black Amulet runs out.
I think my best way of doing it is, I think if I can turn into a Hydra and then roll really well on both regeneration and ward save, I might be okay.
That would be interesting to see, Bloodthirster versus Hydra.
Yeah, because you've got strength 7 and like 7 attacks, so you can actually hurt him. But you've got like a 5 upscale. I think you've got a 4 upscale sin and a 4 up regenerate. So you're actually quite tasty when it comes to taking the hits from him.
Okay, you definitely need to get yourself that Hydra model if you can. Then
you need to get that Hydra, absolutely, because being a Chimera just won't cut it for fighting bloodthirsters. I need more heads.
So the reason Batface is essentially the end level boss for all of this, the end of the campaign. It's generals at the end of the weekend. The generals can take on Batface the Bloody, last man standing. Whoever kills Batface conquers the Badlands. So you wouldn't be able to take Lord Scroll because he wouldn't be your general. It has to be your Skaven general that takes out Batface in order to conquer the Badlands for the Council of 13.
Special characters can't be your general.
Yes. So you're back to it having to be your general that takes out Batface the Bloody.
I see a fell blade in your future, mate.
But the problem is if I take a fell blade, the fell blades are 100 points, 135 points. I can't even take a fell blade.
All right.
But
you can if you capture a gold mine.
Yes, but then it will be all of my magic item points, which means if Batface the Bloody hits me first, I'm dead.
I mean, this is just the risk you're going to have to take.
Yeah,
I think the way to do it, therefore, is this is kind of, you've got to build it. Your general would have to be on a screaming bell, for the reason being that then Batface the Bloody, because you have to randomize, Batface then ends up like
Gracie
hitting
is
the bell.
Can't be your general. So
yeah.
no, I can't. No. Or I would be taking one.
Why can't Gracie be your general?
In 5th edition,
because you have to have a Skaven warlord in 5th edition.
In 5th edition, every army barring Chaos has a general level character, which is one
compulsory.
You have to take one of them, and it doesn't matter the size of game. In a 500-point game, you have to take a warlord as a general,
a lord level guy.
Yeah, for every army. Which in some of them, like
vampires,
there's several hundred points.
Yeah.
Like 500-point undead army is I don't think you even can because of the percentage limits.
Undead you could, because you didn't have to have a vampire to be your general in Undead. you could have, for example, a leash or a necromancer. There were all kinds of different characters that were
Yeah,
your general level.
They start at 350 points though.
Vampire counts, you had to have a vampire.
Yeah,
but it could be a count rather than a lord.
Yes,
at least
they fixed that because you technically can't build an undead army below 700 points.
Yeah,
because your general is too expensive. But I could put a Skaven general on a monster, but then Batface the Bloody is just going to punch me off the top of it.
I think my memory of talking about this is not helpful at all in terms of how do you defeat Batface the Bloody, but it does. I remember that you could do an undead army for 500 points because you took a mummy hero, could be a general, could be your general.
Tomb King.
There was a way
Mummy
to do it. Yeah. You could take a mummy Tomb King, and they were like under 200 points.
Well, by the time we get to the next episode, Return to the Badlands will have happened, and we can then all report that the three of us who are going to be there can report back on how we got on. And no doubt there'll also be a video from Return to the Badlands eventually. People can watch and see how we get our asses handed to us. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I can see Willard is about to fall asleep, and Murray presumably has to get up and go and do things, even though it's not yet dawn where he is.
It's
the dawn is coming.
No, the dawn is coming. I'm just going to go into a hot tub that I have in my room that's filled with hot spring water and just sit in that for a bit.
Weren't you complaining you're hot?
Yes, but it's different when it's a hot tub for some reason. I think it's also the fact that there's a plunge pool next to it that I can just go into to cool down and then go back.
It would be great when you're editing this, Ben, if you could just put like a slight techno beat over everything Murray's saying, so it sounds like he's just like walked out of a club. He's on like the smoking area of a club.
But no, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go that way and have breakfast. And I think the breakfast is going to be roti canai again, because fuck me, roti canai is good.
Yeah, well,
because cold curry for breakfast is good.
Thank you so much for getting up at dawn.
Yes. True dedication. We'll let you off all the unpainted stuff because you actually got up at 5 a.m. to do a video with us. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As ever, you can catch up with myself and Willard over on Twitter, and I will be sharing pictures from whatever else Mike and Murray get painted in between now and our next session. In the meantime, thanks for watching. We will catch you next time. Bye for now.
See you later, everyone. Bye.